dealing with the real Redwoods, which we were because we had all the actors shooting all the plates, in a lot of ways made it, it's always easier to do it because we could visualize 99% of the shot. All you had to do was like just visualize where the walker was going to be and what its behavior was going to be in the shot. That was a lot of fun shooting that stuff up in Northern California. And with all the pyro charges in the trees and everything going off, and we had multiple cameras shooting the big moments when everything would happen. It was just, you know, it was really spectacular. And then going through all the footage and finding the bits and pieces, you know, that George was going to use for the stuff was really, you know, really pretty neat. The bike chase sequence was a whole different set of problems, and that was like racing through it at 100 miles an hour. And there's no way to do that. You know, we could go along a road, but how do you get rid of the road? And you know, you can run, but you can't run 100 miles an hour or a motorcycle and you'd crash. You know, so that was a whole different thing. I really, in my mind, treated that as a completely different thing than any of the than the walker sequence. At the beginning of the sequence, the original conception of it, George asked Joe and I to figure out sort of, you know, he said, well, here's the beginning of the sequence and here's the end. And you guys kind of, you know, do what you want for the middle and let me know what you got. So we started thinking about it. We did some storyboards on it and came up with quite a bit of it. And then George looked at that and said, no, that's a good start, but. And then he went and refined it and made it, you know, this big elaborate sequence that it is right now. That was so big that it was hard to even figure out where to begin orchestrating how you're going to make this sequence. Because again, it's like 105 shots in 3 minutes. And you've got side views and forward and backwards and explosions and, you know, tracking shots and locked off shots, and it's just a huge thing. But the setting is kind of basically sort of the same. So what we did was we did an animatic on it, which was a little version of it with a brand new camera that had just come out, a little video camera that was like only about this big with a little lens on it. Now they're all over the place, but at this point there wasn't anything really that small. And we did the whole thing on videotape with little model dolls. We had dolls about this big and made little plastic bikes like this and had rods coming out of the back of them, and set up on a table, a 4x8 sheet of plywood, a fur rug that we got from a local fabric store, and some cardboard tubes for the redwood trees, and a couple of lights to light them, and then sort of held these as like little toys. And you could hold the camera then in the other hand. The camera wasn't this big, you know, camera for shooting video. It was a small, lightweight one, so that it could be as flexible as the scene needed to be, because the scene had to be really flexible. And we did, over a period of like 2 or 3 days, we did an animatic, which is essentially the film. And you can compare it to what's in the film, and they looked, you know, almost exactly the same. Now that we were out of the storyboard stage and we had visuals to look at, and everybody agreed, yeah, the visual of it, the running footage of this looks really good. Then we could break it down into how many shots we had looking to the front, how many shots looking to the back, to the left, to the right, how many were like one-off shots, and then we could schedule it. We thought at the beginning about building a miniature forest that we could race through, motion control, but in order to be able to just to get the speed, because the idea behind it was incredible sense of speed, plus there was a huge number of shots. It was like, it's 105 shots in 3 minutes. There's some incredible amount of work in that little self-contained sequence. But I decided to try a test, and we shot it right at Samuel Taylor Park here in Muren County, of a Steadicam, which is a device that Garrett Brown made years ago. And I actually had Garrett fly out, and we did the test of just walking through, shooting it at a very slow frame rate of 1 frame a second. And the Steadicam sort of stabilizes the camera as he's walking through. And then he has to kind of think very slowly about what a pan to the right, or like racing around a corner would be, and very slowly navigate the Steadicam around like this corner. So you like don't move quickly like you're driving a car. You kind of look ahead 300 feet, and now you begin this slow embankment as you're walking toward that very slow. And when you project it at normal speed, it's got this incredible sense of speed. So we started, you know, so once we had the technology worked out as to how to do the backgrounds, then the whole sequence got a lot simpler. And we didn't have to focus our attention on building these big models. We built small models about this, probably about this long, for the sort of medium shots and longer shots of the guys on the bikes. And we shot those on motion control, but at a very slow camera speed, with like our first sort of experiments we got into in rod puppets that we later, literally later in the show, used a lot more in the Rancor sequence. And which means you can sort of grab a rod coming out of Luke's back and out of his helmet and moving again very slowly as the camera is shooting 1 frame a second. You can get some good choreography of the characters, making them look like they're on bikes, because their hands are sort of attached, their rear ends are attached, their legs are attached, but all these joints, if they're free and flexible, can move around. They look like they're sort of moving around there.